Today I'd like to continue exploring the Metta Sutta. Maybe I'm becoming a bit of a Dharma nerd about this particular sutta, but I'm enjoying reading different commentaries on it. Primarily I'm doing it so I can familiarize my own mind with it. And as one friend said, I don't want to be run around by anger anymore. And so this is one way of supporting that aspiration. The Metta Sutta is found in the Sutta Nipata, a sutta collection of the Pali Canon in Theravada Buddhism. And last time we looked at the 15 qualities that form a really strong ethical foundation for the practice of loving kindness. And as we practice and familiarize ourselves with these qualities over not days and weeks, but months and years, decades maybe, our mind gradually and subtly becomes transformed and becomes more and more supportive or amenable, conducive towards the development of loving kindness. So just to read again the first 3 verses. This is what should be done by one who is skilled in goodness and who seeks the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties and frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm and wise and skillful, not proud or demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. So in addition to a commentary on this sutra by Bhikkhu Bodhi, I've also been reading a couple of different commentaries, one by the Burmese meditation master, Venerable Mahasi Savadai, who taught in the early years of the Insight Meditation Society, IMS, in Barre, Massachusetts, and one of his students, a Malaysian Buddhist monk, Venerable Sujiva. And it's so interesting because they have similarities, but also some distinct differences in how they present things. So looking at these different commentaries, I have found brings a real richness and it expands my mind in how to work with this practice. So after the 15 qualities, then the meditative development of loving kindness begins. At the end of verse 3 with that general statement about what loving kindness is. As it says, wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. So here we're wishing universal well-being, which is said to include 3 things. One is that we're wishing physical well-being, being well in body, wishing that beings be safe and secure, free from harm and injury. And this is not only external harm, but primarily internal harm from our own afflictions. And then wishing for living beings to have inner happiness, to have a happy mind, have mental peace. So most of us are probably quite familiar with the ordinary method for developing loving kindness, where we think of 4 or 5 people that represent different groups in our lives. We begin with someone who we begin with ourselves, actually. And we might think that's selfish, but if we don't understand our own deep, innate longing for happiness, and also the causes of suffering and how to bring that about, we really won't have much strength behind the wish that we have for others. So we begin with ourselves, and then we think about someone who's dear, or a loved one, someone who we respect. That's the second person. And then we think of someone who's more of a general friend, more than an acquaintance, but not quite as dear as the first one. And then we call to mind a specific neutral person, and reflecting towards them. And then finally, when we feel we have some strength of mind, then we can bring in someone we find challenging, someone we might consider an enemy, someone who's associated with dislike and anger. So first we direct loving kindness towards ourselves, using that as a standard, having some feeling of what that wish is. And so to do that, we really have to come in contact with how deeply ingrained, how automatic, how innate this wish for happiness is. And so taking time to really reflect on all the different activities that we do throughout the day and how each one of them, most likely if we check up, each one of them will be motivated by some wish for happiness. The way we dress, the way we speak, well, maybe not the way we dress here, but the way we speak, the way we move through space, the way we use our time, our energy, our resources. If we really look at that, we'll find that there is this underlying wish for ease, for satisfaction, for happiness. And so one generates this thought towards oneself over and over and over, generating this feeling, this emotion, wishing for our own well-being and safety and mental happiness, till this wish is naturally generated within our hearts. So we can use these standard phrases like, may I be well in body, may I enjoy physical health, may I be safe and secure, free from harm and danger, may I be happy, may I have a happy mind. Actually, we can use whatever words speak to us. There are different recitations. Some of them are phrased in a more positive way. Some of them are phrased more in a reverse way. May I not have unhappiness, things like that. So finding whatever works for us. And then when we've been able to generate stable loving kindness for ourselves, then we can move to each of these different categories. For instance, may my mother be well and happy in body. May she be safe and secure. May she have a happy mind. And again, just repeating that to ourselves again and again, and noticing if there's some development of warmth there in the front of the body. So we go through each of these categories, and then finally we take all the people together and generate loving kindness towards them equally till there's no distinction. I find that step really interesting, to see if, as I think about being surrounded by these different people, if I can genuinely radiate that feeling towards all of them equally. And then the text moves into wishing loving kindness for specific classes, taking the whole sphere of living beings and dividing them into different categories, which is quite interesting. The short Metta Sutra compresses the different types of beings into verses 4 and 5 in kind of an abbreviated way. In verse 4 he says, whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none, the great or the mighty, medium, short, or small. So all beings can be divided into two classes, those who are weak or frail, and those who are strong. So we might have our own understanding of what that means, but Venerable Mahasi Sawadai says it this way, that those who are weak refers to ordinary worldlings who are not yet free from anger and hatred, greed and attachment, and ignorance. That makes us frail. That makes us weak. And the strong or steadfast are those free of fear. They're the noble arhats whose minds are tranquil. And so he suggests the recitations like this. May all who are weak and likely to get frightened from not being free from thana, a Pali word that means thirst or desire, longing, attachment, greed. May all who are not free from thana be happy in both body and mind. And so you repeat that three times or more. And may all who are noble arhats, who are serene and steadfast without any fear for having been fully emancipated from the bonds of thana, be happy. Again, reciting it at least 3 times, slowly trying to generate that feeling in one's mind and heart. So what's interesting is the commentaries also clearly encourage practitioners to notice that the conceptual mind wishing loving kindness and even the vocal recitation of the wish arises and then ceases, arises and then vanishes repeatedly with every recitation is made. So this combines the contemplation, the meditative contemplation, with an element of vipassana or insight. So you see what can be initially a very simple practice can be expanded to be quite an all-encompassing practice. It's interesting that the Buddha then divided beings into 3 groups of 3. Why these 3 groups of 3, I don't know. But first, according to their size. So again, there are slightly different explanations of what each category includes, but we can divide the beings into the long or the tall, the middling, and the short, those with short bodies. So the tall includes things like snakes and lizards and dragons. I guess they have long bodies. Middling is horses, cattle, buffaloes, pigs, and short bodies are chickens and frogs and birds. So we can think, may those beings who have long bodies be happy. And what it forces you to do, or invites you to do, is to think about these different categories of beings. So what might be a very generic thinking of all sentient beings now becomes divided in a different way. And so I find in my own practice, small practice of this, it begins to expand my awareness, my thinking of different beings. May all those beings who have long bodies be happy. May those beings who have short bodies be happy. May those beings whose bodies are neither long nor short have happiness. Be happy. And then, may all beings who have long, short, or medium-sized stature be happy. So this is kind of like a formula, a repetition that we'll find in all the different groupings. So each message of loving kindness is said 3 times each, or you can just repeat the words, be happy, be happy. And it reminds me of listening to Goenka, S.N. Goenka at the Vipassana courses. At night, he would always do loving kindness or metta, and I can just see him or hear him saying, be happy. Any of you done those retreats? Yeah. It's not over till the fat man sings, right? Okay, so then the next group is divided according to their volume. Large, gigantic bodies, those with large, gigantic bodies, those with middling bodies, those with small bodies. So large bodies would be elephants, whales, huge fish and turtles. Middling bodies would be humans, cats and dogs, fowl and birds. How these got divided, it's hard to know. And a couple of the commentators said, where would you draw the distinction between one group and the other? It's not clear. It's probably left up to the meditator. And then small bodies would include insects. And again, the same recitation. May all beings who have huge bodies be happy, be happy, be happy, etc. Then divided according to density, such as being round, big, and fat or flabby. Again, I don't really understand, but I think we can divide groups of people in whatever way would work for us. But here, gross bodies might be those who are taller than 6 feet and weigh more than 100 pounds. Think about Indians, they're smaller stature. Subtle bodies or small bodies would be those less than 2 feet, maybe dwarfs, and weigh less than 100 pounds. Or we could think of those in terms of celestial beings, those who have really subtle bodies, and then middling bodies in between. So in our verse, the middling is only mentioned once. It's kind of like a homeopathic remedy. There's a lot that's implied there that's not spelled out. And then the 5th verse says, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. So seen means all beings that we've ever seen. So again, that gets us to think about all the beings that we've seen in our short lifetime. And all the beings that are unseen, just trying to imagine, whether that's human beings or other living beings. Those living near, living in our neighborhood, in our town, in our community. Those living far away on other continents. Those born, those who've already come into existence, those yet to be born. Those beings that have not yet been born, but are in the process of seeking rebirth or maybe in gestation. And so in the meditative development, we take each of these categories as a distinct group and really focus on radiating kindness in a gentle way. It can't be forceful, just a gentle way that brings about, and it can very easily bring about this developing sense of warmth in the front of the body. So changing the object of one's loving kindness like this helps us to be flexible and more universal or equanimous with the metta that we developed. And in general, metta practice contributes to a happier life and outlook. It helps us to counter anger and accumulates good karma. As Mahayanists, it supports our development of bodhicitta. So I'll keep going with it. Hope you're enjoying it.